Hey, welcome back to Room 237. This is John. My last movie review, I did House on the Edge of the Park. This time I'm doing the other part of the double feature, Last House on Massacre Street, aka The Bride, aka House That Cried Murder, aka a bunch of other names. It was released in 1973. It's an American film made by an Italian director, Jean-Marie Pélissié, I'm guessing. Now, it's a good thing that when you watch this on drive-in mode, so it sort of plays like Grindhouse, but without the trailers, that Last House plays first, because it's a lot weaker than this one. Pretty much it is an exploitation film, so there's not much of a plot. It's just there's this guy, David, this woman, Barbara. She built this big, crazy house, but the inside's unfinished. They get married. During the wedding, his ex-girlfriend shows up. She's played by... excuse me a moment. Ivagene Saraceni, who was Billy's mother in the epilogue and prologue of Creepshow. She shows up. They go up to a room, start making out. Barbara goes up, finds them, attacks him with scissors, and then runs off. And he pretty much just stays with this other woman in the house that they live in for like weeks, and no one's heard from Barbara. And then just weird things start happening. Not much to really warrant, a House of Hell movie. I mean, you could have had Last House on the Left. I mean, maybe they went for like a double Italian feature, but Last House on the Left would have been better. It also stars David Hess, much similar film. This movie doesn't really pay off until the very end. It's kind of boring. It's, pretty much get who this Barbara character is, because through flashbacks, when they're talking about getting married in the beginning, there's great Italian music all throughout the film, whether it be pleasant or freaky or whatever. Get this flashback which he tells her father, who the father did a good job acting. The father was played by, John Beale. I don't know what else he's been in. Let's see. What else has he been in? The Firm with Tom Cruise. Atlantic Convoy. The Dark Shadows TV show. Kid Who Loved Christmas. Amityville 3D, okay. Nothing I've really heard of. This movie. Yeah, not much. Well, yeah, much, but nothing I've heard of. But anyway, He does a good job acting. Actually, this whole movie is pretty well acted for its time and for the budget and for the quality of film. I thought it was acted pretty well, much better than this movie. Even though David Hess did what he had to in this film. But yeah, this one was much better acted, especially by her father, John Beale. I think he did a very good job. So this Barbara character, she's pretty much like, she always says daddy, and I'm going to do this, and you're going to like it. She's a very spoiled girl. He's like, daddy, I like him, and I'm going to have him. He's like, oh, but honey, but pumpkin. I don't know if he calls her pumpkin, but it's that kind of vibe. So then, after she attacks him with scissors, we get, another scene where David and her father are having lunch together. David works at some sort of firm. It doesn't really get into it that much. And David's very good at his job, makes the dad a whole lot of money. That's why he keeps him around. And the movie tries to build tension, but just there's a lot of real down moments where nothing happens. It like Last House on Massacre Street is a corny but cool title, just not for this movie. Like I would rather this be called The Bride, or The House That Cried Murder would have been a better title, just because of the very ending, which I'm gonna spoil. But Last House on Massacre Street is a terrible title for this movie. You know, you get little bits like the phone rings and it's this woman saying, "This is your answering service. Did you two have fun at the carnival today?" He's like, "Who is this?" It's like, "Message from your wife Barbara. She's watching you all the time, constantly." So a little tension building. They're both in bed together. She has a dream where Barbara's strangling her. He has a really weird, trippy dream where he's in the house that she built in the beginning, but he's like frozen at different parts of the house. It's really strange. Oh yeah, and then earlier during David and the father's lunch, we get a little story about how, you know, Barbara, she's very sweet. She always had a tendency towards violence. When she was a young girl, someone gave her a pet chicken and it attacked her, and she locked herself in the room and cut the head off. So now we know, okay, this Barbara's fucked in the head. And so, like, later on, David leaves, and the other woman, Helen or Ellen or whatever, she goes to roll over in bed, and there's a bloody chicken head in the pillow. And then there's the rest of the chicken in the fridge. And really, I mean, the movie's really short. It's only, like, 76 minutes long. It's an hour 16 minutes. Not much to it. You're pretty much just building up to the last 15 minutes. That's all this movie's worth, really. It sort of fails at building tension, but you know, I don't hate the film. It's just not one of the best Italian or exploitation films I've ever seen. But you know, the ending, spoilers here, not that too many people have heard of this, but if you're looking to see every horror film out there, an exploitation film, go check it out, I guess, but I don't think anybody really cares. So, spoilers, even though I don't think anyone cares. He goes to the house that Barbara built, and her father's there, and he's like, "Look down at your wife." And the whole scene is acted very well by both guys. We see Barbara laying in a casket in her wedding gown with the blood from the scissor attack. He's like, "Well, with enough money and persuasion, I was able to set this whole thing up. I knew she was dead the whole time. I found her here the next day after your wedding. She came here and hung herself." And he's like, "Oh my God." And he's like, "So the whole thing was set up by me. You know, your answering service, a few other things, which Helen can explain to you, but you're never going to see her again. You mean like the chicken and shit." So then the father, like, pushes him, not down the stairs, but, you know, coaxes him downstairs. He's like, "Yeah, I paid the embalmer, and she's ever so beautiful, just with that awful rope burn around her neck." Then he attacks him with an axe. It's kind of poor looking. I will say the makeup on her looks pretty good. Like the rope burn and, you know, making her look dead, I guess. Because then David wakes up and he's walking around with Barbara and he's saying, you know, "This is the worst mistake of my life, all this, I'm going to divorce you." And she just keeps talking crazy, like, "That's going to be impossible." And she takes him into this one room where there's like a bed. And he's like, "There's one thing we haven't done yet." And he's like, "Never." And, you know, kind of hammy stuff goes on. But I like this twist. This is why I think they should not have called it Last House on Massacre Street, because it's not a fucking slasher film, like this would imply. Or, I mean, I guess it's kind of a revenge film, but on a much more convoluted scale. But you know, she takes him over. Like, it gets weird because it's like he can't touch the doorknob, but he can touch her, and says that she's cold because he's trying to leave, but he can't touch the doorknob. So she leads him out to like the overlook to look down. He sees that she is dead in the casket. He is dead on the floor next to her from an axe wound. And that's when we find out he is forever trapped in this house eternally with her as like a spirit. And it ends with her chasing him through the house, screaming no, no. Her saying "kiss me, David," him screaming no. And the camera just keeps panning out from different parts of the house, and then from the house itself. So that's why I think The House That Cried Murder would have been a better title. Again, like House on the Edge of the Park, these exploitation films, there's not much to say. But Last House on Massacre Street, I was expecting more of like a slasher type thing, like film. I wasn't expecting like this overly convoluted where it's just the last 15. I mean, I can't complain about the running time. It's only an hour 16 minutes. It's not that long, but I don't think it lived up to its title. It's not that memorable of a film. You know, it's nothing I'm ever going to be that interested in again. I mean, I did like the ending very much. I thought, you know, the revelation that he's dead and he's stuck with her, he can never leave the house. I thought that was well done, well acted. I really liked the dad, her father character. The actor that played him, I thought he did very well. But this was just not... You know, the other night when I did this review, I really should have done this one. Because when you watch it, like I said earlier, when you watch the drive-in mode, this plays first, and I should have done that because this is definitely, you know, the main attraction. This whole movie builds on tension. This one I feel tries to. There's not enough plot, there's not enough running time, there's not enough scares or things to keep you interested. It's just those last 12 15 minutes that really make it worth it. But you know, the whole hour before that, it can get kind of boring. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate the film. I guess I would call this a mild rant. But, you know, I remember the first time I saw, like, the original Last House on the Left, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. It's been a long time since I've seen it. I don't really like the first act of it. But I would say it probably is still better than this. And usually Italian exploitation films are better than the American ones. But yeah, this movie was much better. This one, again, if you have to see every exploitation or every kind of Italian or horror film in general, check it out. It's nothing super exciting, but whatever. So yeah, Maroon 237, that's all I got on that. Thank you.